Welcome to Melt University's 2020 summer program. This year, our virtual intern program will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Here's your host, President and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome, students. Virtual Melt University Summer 2020. We've had a great series of guests, great series of lunch and learn so far. And today it is an honor and a privilege to introduce a very dear friend of mine, a star, a rising star, next gen of college and university athletic directors, Ross Bjork, the athletic director of the Aggies, Texas A&M University. Thank you, Ross, for joining Melt University today.
Vince, I'm supposed to say howdy. So howdy from College Station, and I really, really appreciate you having me on today, and it'll be great to share with the students.
Well, in Lower Alabama, we say Heidi as well. So a lot of people, particularly when I travel to New York, they don't really understand what I'm saying. But
Right.
we really, this has been a tremendous summer so far. We talked about just a few minutes ago in the conversation that, all of these types of things that have a silver lining. We wanted to take Melt University virtual for many years. We've got hundreds of kids listening in today and students. It's just an honor and a privilege, to have Ross on our program. I've known him for many years. When I met him when he was athletic director at University of Mississippi, Ole Miss. He's risen, if you could say risen, Texas A&M, Ole Miss. He's been athletic director at 2 of the SEC West schools, but he's also, like I said, really on the front lines of what's going on with issues of student athletes, what's going on with NIL, what's going on with COVID-19, what's going on with the fan experiences once they come back to Aggie land, over 100,000 people, the great traditions there. I've been there many times for games. He's also going to talk to you today about his career path, obstacles he's overcome, where he sees the opportunities for you guys in the future, where he sees these opportunities for you as the campus is the ultimate professional laboratory. But as AD, and AD now, guys, is a term that really is a misnomer. He is the chief executive officer of an organization with revenues well north of $100 million. And that is a major deal. So the modern day athletic director is the past. When I was coming through with Coach Stein, a lot of the coaches and Coach Stallings were the traditional ADs. These guys and ladies are business people. And the preparation and the training, he's over the coaches, the scheduling, the budget, the compliance, the alumni, the donors. I mean, it is a major job. Prior to A&M, athletic director, as I said, where I met him at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, Western Kentucky before that, and was the youngest of all 120 NCAA FBS athletic directors when hired. So, we got a superstar on the line today, native of Dodge City, Kansas, received his undergrad from Emporia State University, was named the most distinguished alumni of Emporia in 2017, received his master's from Western Illinois, wonderful wife, Sonia, 2 kids, Peyton and Paxton. So, Ross, welcome to Melt University today. It's an honor and privilege for you to join us.
Well, Vince, I really appreciate that very kind introduction, and it's been a great journey. We've been blessed at every stop of the way, and people probably don't know where Dodge City, Kansas is, listening maybe to this program, but if you take Kansas as a rectangle and look at the map, it's on your far left-hand side down there in the southwest corner of Kansas. And to think that I would have had this journey in college athletics is really kind of a dream come true. And every step of the way, it's been about relationships. It's been about trying to connect with people, trying to make some sort of difference. And I'll never forget the first time that you and I had lunch right there in Buckhead, there in Atlanta, and talking about the future of athletics and how to brand and how to market. And we were talking about how to monetize the Grove and all those kind of things. And so I've really, really treasured our friendship and staying connected, and look forward to the conversation.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, we were, ironically a little ahead of our time even back then, several years ago, we were talking about the Grove, obviously one of the most fabled tailgating areas in the world. But Ross, talk a little bit about your path. When did this light bulb go off that you wanted a career in college athletics? We talk to our kids a lot about passion, pursuing your passion. You talk about relationship building. We're going to get to that in just a few moments. But at what age in Dodge City, Kansas, for goodness sake, did this light bulb goes off and say, "Hey, I think I want to be the youngest athletic director in FBS history"? I mean, where was that aha moment?
It really started in high school. I was always fascinated by just simple things like, hey, who are those people that sit at the scorer's table, who like write the scorer's book? Like, who are those people? Where do they go at halftime? Where do they go after the game? Like, how does all this stuff work? And then I was fortunate to play small college football at Emporia State. And so therefore I was exposed to coaches. I was exposed to administrators. There wasn't that many administrators at a small college, but I got to know the athletic director, a guy named Dr. Bill Quayle. And I was on a panel one day at like the local quarterback club, like lunch meeting. And they're passing the microphone and they said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And Dr. Quayle was in the audience, and I said, "I want his job. I want to be the athletic director." And I thought, you know what? I was given this opportunity, granted at a much different level than what I'm working at now, but I was given an opportunity to play college sports. People helped me along the way. And I thought, what better career could you have than to give back to student athletes, make it a profession, come to work every day on a college campus. It would hopefully help keep you young. It would provide energy. And then, by the way, it's sports. It's entertainment. It's fun. But we're also impacting lives. And so that the light bulb for me went on very, very early. And then it's just been a navigation process of how does all this work. But that's what it started for me, really as a student athlete at a very young age. And my experience honed in from there.
Well, that's interesting. You were able to combine your passion and love of sports, obviously being an athlete, being a high school athlete, being a student athlete, and then being immersed in that environment. And it was sort of similar to kind of my path on the other side. I wasn't a student athlete, but I knew I wanted to be a sports writer. I got a great break and was able to spend 4 years working as a student assistant in the sports information department. But talk about, and I talk to these kids a lot, we talk about how important is truly pursuing your passion with a tremendous amount of zeal, no matter the obstacles, getting thrown off the saddle, getting back on the saddle. But, we have a saying within Melt University that NO are just the first two letters of not yet, not no. But so talk about, first of all, in the first chapter, talk about that pursuit of your passion to the exclusion of everything else around you.
That's the key. Is you have to have that attitude. Not yet, right? Not yet. Yeah, it will happen at some point in time, and we use that all the time here. We're not ready for that yet. We will be ready. Not yet. And really, that's the approach I took every step. We all have barriers that were put in our way. I remember coming out of grad school at Western Illinois, and I'm applying for 20 jobs a week. This was before the internet, so everything's hard copy, and I'm sending out resumes, and I'm getting rejection letters, and I remember it was a wake-up call for me. I had a phone interview with the University of Louisville, and they said, "You know what, you didn't make it." And I said, "Hey, can I call you an hour later, and can I get some feedback?" And this guy gave me some feedback, and he said, "You know what, Ross?" He goes, "You've done a lot of things." He goes, "But you have a graduate assistantship there at Western Illinois." He goes, "You haven't worked in the athletic department. How come you haven't gone over and volunteered in the athletic department?" And I'm like, geez, wow. I was doing all the right things. I thought I was doing my graduate assistantship. I thought I was on the right path. I was taking my classes. And he said, "Look, you've got to take the extra step." So what I tell people is, whatever that passion is, hey, I want to do this, then you need to go do that right away. You need to make a sacrifice. That means maybe you take a job for no money, Maybe you go back to grad school. There's so many people that want to work in sports, but they don't quite understand that there is a sacrifice, especially early on. We all get rewarded later, but especially early on. And so I remember the next thing I did is I walked into the athletic department. Then the very next morning I said, hey, look, I've got 6 months left of grad school. Can I volunteer? And they let me do it. And that led to an internship at Western Kentucky, making $600 a month.
Right.
I thought I died and gone to heaven because I was in the business. And so I think the message is get yourself in the best position to get in, whatever that takes, whatever sacrifice, whatever they'll allow you to do. If it's mowing the grass or making copies or writing articles, there's so many opportunities. The key is get in, and that'll start your whole pathway.
Well, you hit on a couple of huge points that we talk about a lot. One is I'm impressed that you sought constructive feedback and you didn't interpret it as criticism. You put yourself out there. You said, hey, help me learn from this experience. And you know, hey, I'm in the pitch business. You're in the pitch business. We're constantly pitching something. And many times we learn more from the no than we do the yes, because it's easy to be a hero when anybody says yes. But tell kids about really the experience of asking for constructive feedback, because as I've told them, this job search process was brutal prior to COVID. Post-COVID, particularly everybody wants to be in live sports and live events and all those types of things. There's so many more people out of work now. It's going to flood the job pool. Overqualified people are going to take less jobs. And so we're trying to help those kids get to the top 5 percentile of that job consideration set. But constructive feedback is really, really important in this process, is it not?
It really is. And I think the motto, and this was a quote that I learned from John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach from UCLA, was if you're through learning, then you're through. And so when we get rejected, when we have a down moment, you know, it's a challenge in that moment, but I think you have to look at it as what's the opportunity to get better. It's almost like you say, okay, good. I didn't get that job. You know what? It gives me more time to practice for the next one. I got turned down. I interviewed 6 different times before I became an athletic director, where I met with the president of the university. I thought I had a good vibe with the search committee,
right,
and I got told no 6 times. Lucky number 7 was Western Kentucky in the spring of 2010. And so we all have these moments that we're going to have failure. Failure is part of success. There's going to be moments, and if we don't take a step back and really look in the mirror and say, hey, this isn't on them. This isn't their fault. I can't blame them. I'm the one responsible for my circumstances. How do I learn from it? How do I get better? How do I be in that moment? How do I, really learn from this opportunity that I was just given, that it was rejection? I'm sad. I'm mad. But I've got to get over it. I can't dwell. And I think that's where learning comes from every single day.
Well, you hit on a good point. And listeners from a different generation, if you're not familiar with the studying and career and the teaching of Coach John Wooden of UCLA, the Wizard of Westwood, I'm a disciple of John Wooden, and you guys should all go Google John Wooden and look at his teachings and readings and learnings. But Ross made a good point. It's always an opportunity to get better. And early on in my career, I used to take all of these rejections very personal. And I finally stepped back one day and I said, I can't take these personal anymore. I've got to learn from these things. And so, Ross, I tell our kids, don't take any of this personal. You've got to keep grinding, because you don't know what other factors go into the influence of a decision of a job search or a new business search or a hiring search or something like that. But talk about, because I think it's very important, and I wish I had learned that lesson a lot earlier in life, about not really taking any of this process personal.
I think it just comes with patience and experience. Growing up, I was known as kind of a hothead, right?
Right.
I mean, I was competitive and I wanted to win every baseball game and every football game. And then I learned, look, I can't control what happens, what's a play that someone else makes. I can't control the ball bouncing a certain way. And so it goes down to that, control the controllable is a saying that I like to to use a lot. And that's really what it's all about, is we can't dwell on the negative. We've got to always look at the positive. That positive leadership influence, our attitude and effort can drive everything that we do every single day. And we're going to have setbacks. That's just life. It's not a matter of if, but when.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to look at it from the standpoint that, we're made for this. We're built for this. And I've got a plan, and I'm going to work hard, and I'll overcome this. I'll learn from it and use that attitude every single opportunity.
So as I say, as the CEO of a major organization, multi-million-dollar organization, which is Texas A&M Aggie Athletics, tell me about a typical day in your life professionally, and then I want to segue that into how that could be, within the various activities of an athletic department. Because you had great experience in the athletic department, I had great experience in the athletic department. Tell me about your typical day, because you've got so many constituencies to manage. You've got alumni, you've got donors, you've got season ticket holders, you've got fans, you've got students, you've got sponsors, you've got the university presidents, you've got student athletes, you've got coaches. I mean, it's a major. I think I just got tired repeating all of that. I mean, it may have made you tired, but talk about your typical day and the really good things, and then if somebody's approaching you for an opportunity as a student, what are you on the lookout for?
Yeah. A typical day for me. Let's just take a work day. I always start my day by trying to get up early and doing something physical, a run, a workout, something. And one, I just want to take care of myself health-wise, but also it's kind of an early victory to start the day. So I get up early. I'll have, if we're in school, I'll have breakfast with my boys before they head off to school. I like to take one of them to school, at least if I'm in town. I try to do that and be a great parent and a great dad. And so that's how I try to start my day, with a little bit of personal time. Mm-hmm. And then you come into the office, and here's the thing about athletic directors in today's world. It's not just about hiring coaches anymore. Maybe you get defined by that, but that's not the world you live in every single day. I'm looking at my desk right now, and I've got a notebook on our return to activity for COVID-19. I've got a document related to our multimedia rights. I've got a folder on name, image, likeness. I've got a compliance matter. I've got staff evaluations. I've got a list of donors. So the point is, we're a generalist, and we have to know enough about everything, not just a little about everything. We have to know enough, because we have to be accountable to whoever that is, whether that's a donor, whether that's our president, our board of trustees, board of regents. There's so many constituents that you named. Parents are worried about our COVID-19 plan.
Right.
So we have to be accountable to them so their sons and daughters are safe. And so there's a multitude of complexities. And now we're going into a new era. Name, image, likeness, lawsuits, the social unrest is alive and well, and I think we'll finally, hopefully, change our country in more of a positive way. That's on our desk right now, because our student athletes and our staff are impacted. I think at the end of the day, athletic directors, you have to try to keep it simple as much as you can and focus on, because it's easy to get kind of lost in this minutia. I think you got to focus on coaches and staff, mentorship and development, external relations and resource acquisition, I think, has to be a part of it. And then, of course, the student-athlete welfare components. So that's how I try to organize my day. My schedule can be all over the place. Right now, it's Zooms. It's I don't even know what a normal conference call is anymore. Because of the technology, right?
Right.
Everything's on Zoom now. I haven't used my phone in like 90 days.
I know, it's crazy.
My desk phone. But a normal day is a lot of meetings, a lot of communication, a lot of interaction, trying to display the public confidence for your constituents out there. And there's just a lot to it. When we're not playing games, your days are different because you're just in a lot of meetings. When you're playing games, it's more social activity and appearances and things like that. But then what to your last part, what I look for in students, perhaps getting a job or job candidates, is really, the technical things are one part of it, but are they a great fit? Do I see them at our university wearing our colors, representing our university, working with student athletes, presenting a presentation in front of a group of people? If they've made it that far, they probably already have the technical pieces lined up, and they're probably adept at those things. But really, are they going to work here? Are they going to fit? Are they going to be a producer? Are they going to be a good person and fit into our values and in our culture? Those things become, I think, more relevant, especially later on in your career. But early on, it's about, have you done something to make a difference? Have you put yourself out there in a volunteer situation or a student work situation? I learned it the hard way. It took me a little while to kind of figure that out. Mm-hmm. And so I look for all of those kind of things when a resume comes across our desk and we have an opportunity to talk to young folks about job opportunities in athletics.
Well, we talk about the campus is the ultimate professional lab. We talk about that back in the old days, I had to go to the library and, go to the encyclopedia, go to the yellow pages, or go to resource guides to look up information. But we talk about now the campus is the ultimate professional lab. We talk about the kids have the technology tools. Within the athletic department and what we've described as this new and evolving area of the post-COVID world, of the post-fan experience, what does that look like? How are athletes going to be able to monetize their name, image, and likeness? They're becoming more and more empowered on the campus today as student athletes with the tools. But within the A&M athletic department, if Vince Thompson's a freshman or a sophomore at A&M, I'm an aspiring, I want to be in the sports marketing business. Where are those opportunities? Because there's so many. There's ticketing, there's venues, there's fan experience, there's obviously now safety, there's sponsorships. What would you advise the students to, where to look?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There's so many different departments. I mean, when I was trying to figure this out, basically there was like 10 administrators in the athletic department at Emporia State. Mm-hmm. Here, between our 12-man foundation and our athletic staff, we have 335 employees. Wow. And so there's opportunities, and we employ hundreds of student workers in our athletic department, not only for work experience, but also they actually can get paid, which is a great thing too. You can actually make some money out of this. But that's the great thing about today's world is we have analytics people in our 12-man foundation. We have a ticket sales unit. We have, of course, the fundraisers. We have special events, not only in the foundation, but also in the athletic department. We have game operations, folks that run our games. We have marketing people that make sure the atmosphere and that we have fans in the stands. You have the compliance world, and that's going to be an emerging world. It's the compliance world because of what's coming down with name, image, likeness, and how we monitor and oversee that. The other emerging area is the mental health side. My prediction is we'll have as many mental health professionals in our athletic department as we do athletic trainers and strength coaches.
Wow.
I think that world is coming. We have 3 right now at Texas A&M, and I think you'll see that area is going to explode here in the next 2 to 5 years. So
wow, you've unpacked a lot. To recap for our students, I'm raising my eyes here too. Mental health, that's going to be a huge career opportunity, and that not necessarily is out of college liberal arts or sports marketing, event marketing. Mental health is huge, as Ross said. Look at the foundations within the university. It is chock full of great alumni and great professionals. I always say the lowest hanging fruit are the alumni and the sponsors of that particular university, that particular school. Adidas is a big sponsor of Texas A&M. If you've ever wanted to go to work for Adidas, you could maybe be a campus rep for A&M and help service that account to your sports medicine, ticket, data analytics, the analytics of season ticket, the advertising, multimedia rights. If you're listening to that game on A&M, ESPN, SEC Network, CBS, those guys are out there all the time. if you're a student at Texas A&M or any other college campus across the country, you have these amazing opportunities to really pad your resume, gain that experience, show you're a self-starter, network like crazy, build those relationships, because what Ross is saying is if you encounter Ross on game day and you're doing a great job, or you're driving him around somewhere on a golf cart and you impress him, you're going to begin building that relationship. So Ross, we also talk to kids a lot about building that resume and also building their presence within LinkedIn, and also being very careful of what they post and put out there on social media. Talk about how important that building that brand is, monitoring and building your brand and that brand integrity is, to when you're analyzing whether you're going to hire somebody to be a volunteer or a full-time employee. How important is that now in this process?
So important. When I was kind of growing up in athletics, our brand was built at the conventions, right? That's the only time you could really see somebody was you shook their hand, you looked them in the eye, you gave them a business card, and then you saw them at next year's convention, or maybe you saw them at a game if you played that team or that program or whatever. Now everything is instantaneous. Now it's all about impressions. It's all about what you put out there. Employers have so many technology tools where all they have to do is type in your name. It's a simple approach, and it's all out there. Now, look, freedom of speech should be alive and well. Our good friend Mike Slide used to say that in the Southeastern Conference, the freedom of expression. But there's also professionalism. There's also, hey, look, how will people view this? Everything is politicized in today's world, especially in social media. So you may mean something that's harmless, but it could be taken a whole different way.
Right.
And so for us, you have to educate, you have to be aware. But that employer, that social media presence, it's a big deal now. And it wasn't so much when we were growing up, but now if you're not paying attention to that, it'll trap you, and it can be devastating.
Yeah, and you talk about paying attention, and talk about, because again, all of our worlds changed on March 13th. I was looking forward to seeing you in Nashville at the SEC basketball tournament. I was looking forward to seeing you. We were about to activate our 18th Final Four. And then it was like the big record player, the great scratch, as I call it. All of a sudden, we're out of millions in revenue and millions of people in jobs and live sports. Where in a post-COVID world, short and long term, knowing that you have over 100,000 of your closest friends on many Saturdays in College Station, where do you see the impact? Where do you see this going? But also, there's going to be some opportunities for new careers in this for kids. But where are you looking at this fall, you think?
Yeah, I think right now we're in a sort of a coexisting world right now, where we're all kind of figuring out, okay, how do we and can we coexist with this? We know people are going to get sick. We have to obviously protect the people, especially in the vulnerable categories. But there's a coexisting. At some point, we'll get to a treatment and a vaccine stage. That will come at some point in time. I really believe that people are going to self-select this year. That people are talking about capacities and we can only allow 50% or 25%. I think there's going to be a natural breakage within our fan industry where people are going to feel comfortable or they're not. It's like going to fly a plane right now. Either you're comfortable getting on that plane or you're not. So I think there's going to be a natural sort of breakage. I do think the people that have been long-term, I believe we can hold on to those people. I worry about the people that have bought season tickets in the last 1 to 5 years.
Right.
Are they going to see a value in, you know what, maybe I can just come to 2 or 3 games a year and not see the value. So I worry about some of those trends that could happen. I worry about not being able to put our students, especially here. Last year we sold 34,000 season tickets. And it's not a revenue thing. It's about how do they view coming to games long term? Are we going to keep building the next generation of fans if they can't come at a full experience this year? So there's some worry, there's some concern, but I do believe that then we can flip our venues perhaps into more zone type experiences. And I don't have all the answers on exactly what that looks like. Obviously, we know what premium seating looks like. But can we take certain zones and make them, adaptable to whatever that fan wants in that experience, and really try to personalize things more? Perhaps
right, and we talk to our kids a lot, because the level of expectation, particularly this younger consumer and most sophisticated consumer, our listeners, the most sophisticated consumer that in the history, I always compare it to if you go to the Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Dome versus going to Auburn University, my great alma mater. There's a level of expectation that Jerry's World and Mr. Blank at Mercedes-Benz have set versus, that typical college environment. And so we know that college is going to – we had challenges before COVID with fan experience, fan attendance, the expectation, where do I allocate my time? Can I watch it on my big screen or can I watch it on my phone? Can I afford it? And that was prior to COVID as well. And obviously with, a lot of unemployment, particularly in this industry. But to your point, though, we say to our kids, change is inevitable, growth is optional, choose wisely. So as you're building your career, what has been invaluable for Ross to share today is he's given you a lot of insight into what he's thinking, what that athletic department is thinking, how they're thinking about the next generation of fans and students and alumni and donors and sponsors post-COVID, in this period of great social evolution within our country. You're going to have student athletes that are going to be able to monetize their name, image, and likeness. You've got esports coming on, but Ross, I dare to say, sort of in closing, as much chaos and tumultuous activities going on, there are tremendous career opportunities for aspiring college athletic administrators and students who really want to get in this game now. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the technologies are going to continue to evolve, and deploying those in our stadiums and our fan experience and the analytic piece is going to be, I think, even more critical to really understand our fans even more. We've been learning more about our fans in the last 2 to 5 years, but now it's going to take a whole nother level of inputs and analytics and talent across the board to really engage our folks. And so definitely some opportunities around the technology piece around sports.
Yeah, and by the way, that technology may not necessarily come out of, say, the traditional where I came from, journalism, sports journalism, communications, and those types of things. There are very many areas on the campus. You talk about data and analytics. That may come out of the business school, the marketing school. You talk about the technology, the wireless, the mobile. That may come out of the engineering schools and those types of things. But it's still, we do know one thing. Sports is going to come back at some point. College sports is going to come back at some point. That fan passion, that emotion, you're always going to be an Aggie fan. You're always going to be an Auburn Tiger fan. You listeners out there, whatever university, you're going to have that emotional connection. You may have a multi-generational connection to that. But so for careers in college athletics and student athletics, I concur with Ross that the future has never been brighter. So Ross, in closing, a must read or a must podcast that one of your go-to that we can share with our students that would be helpful as they build their knowledge and career insight and development over time.
I'm a big John Maxwell fan. I just finished his new book called Leader Shift. So it's sort of a new approach on.
What's that? Say that book again.
Leader Shift.
Okay, Leader Shift. I love that.
By John Maxwell. And John's a legendary leadership expert and writer and all those things. And then a few weeks ago, we had a guest speaker at our all-staff meeting. His name is Damon West. Damon lives in Houston, Texas, and he wrote a book called The Coffee Bean. And he spent 7 years in prison, maximum security prison. And one of his cellmates said, "Look, you need to be a coffee bean, because when the coffee bean hits water, it basically changes the environment. And he kind of used that attitude, and it's just it's a simple message. But the coffee bean just hit my desk a few weeks ago because of Damon West, and then I just finished the John Maxwell.
Wow.
So those are two quick ones.
I love that. So listeners, our students, Damon West, the coffee bean. I'm going to go get that myself. I'm obviously a big fan of John Maxwell, Leader Shift. It's going to, our book coming out, brand new, how you position yourself in this post-COVID era. But Ross, we won't take much of your time again today, but what an honor and privilege, what tremendous insight. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your insight because, guys, Ross Bjork is the next generation of college athletic directors. Take his knowledge, take his insight, take it back to your campus and apply that when we all get back to school. And, as I said, he's one of those next-gen guys. My friend Alan Green at Auburn, Scott Strickland at Florida, Greg Byrne at Alabama. I'm using the SEC because there's a lot of great, emerging leaders here. But, Ross, you have no idea how much we appreciate your time, knowledge, insight, and wisdom. And I'm looking forward to actually being able to break bread or go to some kind of SEC game, hopefully sometime this fall.
That's the plan. That's the plan accordingly. Plan accordingly, Vince. But no, I appreciate you having me on, and it's always great to catch up with you, especially in this setting. So thank you so much.
So Ross Bjork, athletic director, Texas A&M, a wonderful place. If you never visited, it's just one of the most amazing, places and to consume a game. But we appreciate your time. Virtual Melt University, summer 2020. We keep grinding on. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.